I'd now like to introduce Rocco Commisso. Mr. Commisso is the chairman and CEO of Mediacom Communications Corporation, a company he founded in his garage, I might add, in 1995. He has since grown the company to the 5th largest cable company in the country with revenues in excess of $1.8 billion. And today, Mediacom is wholly owned by Mr. Commisso and his family. As of August, he is also the new owner of the New York Cosmos, a professional soccer club in the North American Soccer League. Tonight, Mr. Commisso is going to tell us about some of his experiences in organizations, large and small. He will share some of the entrepreneurial and intrapreneurial lessons that he's helped him succeed in these settings. Please help me welcome Rocco Commisso.
Good evening, everyone. So I'm Colombia, true and all right? If it wasn't for Colombia, I probably won't be standing here for sure. So who is Mediacom? We're the 5th largest company in our nation. We operate in 22 states. We have 4,600 employees. We have been pretty successful. I'll give you one item. We've been operating for 21 years. We have had 81 straight quarters of revenue growth year over year. Given the fact that I'm so old, I'm also proud to say that we're the only media company, telecom, cable, advertising, newspapers, all the related companies to my business. I'm probably the only one left standing, all right? Largely because of what I did many, many years ago, starting small and getting to who we are. And I'll go through that process because I was told you want to learn something about entrepreneurship. So the only way I could teach it to you, just could follow my history. I came here to this country when I was 12. Yeah, I didn't know then that I was entering an entrepreneurial type of venture when, while going to high school, I didn't play many sports. They did not have a soccer team there in 1963. So I worked 40 hours a week, helping my brother establish the largest delivery pizza place in the entire Bronx, Westchester County. Now you say, wow, largest. Yeah, what's the largest? Just that we made a mistake then. And that was, we thought the Bronx was the only place in the country. So Pizza Hut and Domino's, you know, look how big they got, right? And they were not even Italians, okay? It's like the guy from Starbucks. He's Jewish, but he made his money with Italian coffee, right? So you don't have to be Italian to make money. You just have to have the idea and make it successful. So I get into college largely because, I was able to knock on doors, and I didn't have any money. I needed money. So I managed to get my gym teacher, who saw me play soccer in gym, not in the teams, we didn't have a team, to call the NYU coach, and as the NYU coach, whether he would look at me to see if I could get a scholarship over there. Well, one thing led to the other. I got a 50% scholarship. I say, 50% scholarship? I still need 100%. The only one that was giving 100% scholarship was Columbia, so I knocked on Columbia. And I never forget what the coach and the dean, who were sitting at a luncheon with me, said, don't you want to see me play now that you're giving me what today would be $80,000 a year in room and board? He says, Rocco, if you're good enough for NYU, you're good enough for Columbia. But I delivered, me and my teammates. We had the only freshman team, in my freshman year, I should say. We had an undefeated season, which constitutes the only undefeated season that Columbia ever had. And in my senior year, we were the first team to go to the NCAA playoffs, and yours truly scored the first goals in the NCAA for Columbia, all right? So I leave Columbia. By the way, I did get a question, in one of my employee relations class. It said, Rocco, the final test was, Rocco, what do you want to do when you grow up? Answer the question. Do you want a nice job being a professor with tenure, when you never have to worry about losing your job? Or do you want to risk it all and do it on your whatever, work hard? I took the latter. I'm glad I took the latter, all right? So I said, I want to go and work. And was a question that was a setup, right? Because we know who the professor was, right? But I basically, even then, I said to myself, I'd rather go and see if I could do it on my own merits, okay? So I go to Wall Street. First I worked at Pfizer, and while I was at Pfizer, I convinced Pfizer Pharmaceuticals in Williamsburg, which is right around the neighborhood, right, to give me a night shift job from 4 to 12, so I could get to Columbia Business School with their money and get another scholarship to go to Columbia. So I lived in the Bronx, went to school in Manhattan, worked in Brooklyn, and my round trip I used to get up at 7 and get home at 2 o'clock on 5 or 6 subways. And I enjoyed it because I was doing something, right? By the way, I had time also to be the president of the student body during those years. I also had time to start a disco, and I also had time to go and see my wife, my future wife, up in Toronto, Canada. So Pfizer Pharmaceutical, Columbia University, my future wife up in Toronto, Canada, and I got the stupid disco that I'm starting out. Because my brother had an empty store, so come and help me do something with this. So we built a disco, and frankly, it was pretty successful. And we geared it to, but since I worked at Chase Manhattan Bank, which today is JP Morgan, I could not tell, and Rockefeller was the chairman. I was the only Italian-American officer in the entire corporate bank, right? Imagine telling them that I also have a disco. They will find me right on the spot. So since I needed both jobs at that time, I kept the disco. I worked on Wall Street. The disco was Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Then we shut off Saturday. Thursday wasn't doing that well. So it was 7 days a week. Finally, I got rid of the disco, left it to my brother, my older brother. Now I went back into banking. While I was on Wall Street, I learned how to lend money to the cable business. And I really, really got attracted to those guys because they were the guys that nobody wanted in the bank. Yeah, they had the cowboy boots, blue jeans. They didn't speak the language. When they came into the bank, they didn't come in with a suit. You follow me? But they were entrepreneurs, right? And they were starting a new industry that very few people knew anything about at that time. And look what it's become today, all right? And I got very lucky where in 1978, all the people that you might have heard around the New York area, like Chuck Dolan, who owns the Knicks, Cablevision, the people at Time Warner, Warner Communications, and I could go Comcast, right? They're the largest cable company. I brought Comcast into the Chase Manhattan Bank. That was my big first relate. They were $50 million in revenues. They're the largest cable company in the country, all right? They also own NBC. So the big companies like CBS, RCA, which own NBC, Fox was not even around then, just to put things in perspective in the 70s. ABC was Cap Cities, ESPN, I'm in the cable business, we pay ESPN a lot of money. ESPN used to pay us money to carry them, just to think how the world has changed. So from there, one thing led to the other. I left the desk, I go to work for the Royal Bank of Canada, and I started entrepreneurially within a huge organization, something that the bank did not charge me to do, but I did it on my own. Because I wanted to do media and communications. By the way, my company's name is Mediacom, Media and Communication. You got that? So happens also the Com is Commiso, and M stands for my daughter Marissa, okay? So I did this, and then within a few years, while I was a senior vice president at the age of 34, I had a phenomenal job, so other people thought. I went upstate to work for this crazy guy that wore blue jeans, right, at a $50 million company to become a CFO. And that was in 1986. And we built our company largely as a result. The cable business is it's an infrastructure type of business, so it's very easy to get money from the banks as opposed to startup ventures like your thing, right? Where it's very hard to get money from the banks. So it was easily financeable, and consequently, we were able, through the acquisition market, take a company with $50 million of revenues to $550 million. In 1995, he decided to sell. Decided to sell to Time Warner. You ever heard of Time Warner? Right? And I says, well, I still believe in this business. And that's where conviction comes. Conviction. That's when you say to yourself, you know, I got to prove something that this, I did not want the company to be sold. I was very happy working for this man. He sold because he became a billionaire, right? So from zero, he became a billionaire during the time that I was there. And, but I did not want the company to be sold. Whereas everybody, senior manager in the company says, let's sell, we want to make a lot of money. I said, I don't give a shit, excuse me. I don't care about the money, all right? I think we can make this company way bigger. Well, I was the first one to leave as soon as the company sale was announced. And luckily for me, which goes back to the timing question, it was the right time for me to do what I did. This was the time that everybody was selling out. The government in 1992 had re-regulated our business. And all of the old timers, my boss had been in the business for 40 years, says, I've had enough of this, I want to get out. Gave me the opportunity to start. And I found an incredible situation where all the big companies that were left, they want to invest their money in the big cities. And there was very few companies that were willing to invest in the smaller markets. And that's where I gear my company, focus my company to do. So we started private. I showed the banks that I had some money to put at risk. They invested with me. Control was a hugely important objective of mine in making sure that whatever money I raised, nobody's going to tell me what to do the next time. Already my boss has sold his company, so I wasn't then not in control of my destiny. So I decided at that time that if I'm going to do anything, never again would I permit anybody to tell me when I should buy, sell, or get the hell out. And that's the reason why I'm still around. This was 1995. I did this window of opportunity, 7-page paper, started raising money. I had a great reputation, frankly, you know, in the debt community. And little by little, we raised all kinds of money. In 2000, when my friends at Time Warner, I go back to Time Warner a lot, decided to merge with the other friends at AOL. You remember that? Okay? It opened up a huge opportunity for me. So I took this company where we had bought assets, cable systems, so to give a number, about $1,700 a subscriber. Because of Time Warner, I was able to take the company public, you know, at twice that amount. Now, assets that I bought 2 months earlier, or 3 years earlier, weighted average was $1,700 a sub. We went public at $3,400 per subscriber, which was huge. Take the company public, and the other smart thing that I did is that I retained the B stock. I did not own the company, because I raised all kinds of money from all kinds of people. When I took the company public, I said, I get the B stock if you guys want to go and do the IPO, which I did. And for the next 10 years, while all kinds of other companies, including Time Warner, including a company like Adelphia that went bankrupt, Charter's today is the second largest company in our nation. They went bankrupt also, right? Came out of bankruptcy, 4 or 5 years ago, and then went out and bought Time Warner. I continued of running the company where another window of opportunity took place, and that was in 2008, when everybody was asking the government, principally the financial institutions, for money to save them. I was using their money they were getting from the government to go out and buy my largest stockholder. All right? Because months earlier, or years earlier, I'd already pre-financed myself because I always believe, you know, raise the money when you don't need them. So while banks were looking for the government to bail them, I was using their money to go out and buy the largest stockholder in my company. And then later on, 2 years later, this was September, we did that deal in September 2008, which was the same week that Lehman Brothers went bankrupt. So we went through that, lots of debt, right? So now 2010 comes around, and for whatever reasons, cable stocks are tanking. Comcast announced they're going to buy NBC. The markets were not doing well. And I made the decision in the space of 2 or 3 days, without ever telling one bank what I was doing, right? And I'm going to take the company private. Now, when you take a company private, you're literally buying all the public stockholders. I go to the market, it was Memorial Day weekend, I says, here, you know, the stock is trading at $5, I don't like that. Yeah, by the way, we went public at $19, so it is 9 years later, the stock is at $5. I don't like that, I'll give you a deal, you know, $6, let's go private. They sue me, oh, $6, too little. Well, but why don't you take the stock up to $15 if it's too little? Okay, so now it's too little, why don't you take it up? Because I warned them, I said, look, you start taking my stock down, I'm going to do a job on you, and I did, all right? So now it's $5. I offered them $6. To make a long story short, it took 9 months. We got sued, which is typical, right? The ambulance chasers, you know, the same hour that I announced to go private, I already had 3 lawsuits on my hands, all right? It cost us $3 million to get rid of them. So within 9 months, you know, I was able to conclude it, and which was by far, the best financial transaction that I did in my life. Not only that I now own 100% of the company, but we were leveraged at 6.6 times debt to cash flow, if you know those concepts. When we went private, I was able to pay down $1 billion of debt in the last 6 years. And today, I think I'm doing all right, okay? But let me just mention something else. One of the best courses that I ever took at Columbia, when I was going to business school, probably the most important course, was not finance, was not accounting, was not marketing, but it was a course called corporate responsibility. How do you behave ethically in a large corporation? You know, I've always thought that my reputation was king, right? And I'll do anything to save my reputation. And we have borrowed, our company has borrowed, and the prior company that I worked on, $20 billion on Wall Street over the last 20 years, 30 years, in hundreds of financings. Never once did we fail to raise the money, and never once did we had to ask the bank to please save us because we made a mistake, right? And I try to teach my people that, yeah, you don't have to be the smartest, you have to be a hard worker, but you don't have to be the smartest, okay? But I'll fire you if you ever go out and do anything bad. I'll keep you, even if we screw up, even if you don't perform, okay? And that has worked very well for me. I probably am the only company alive that after 20 years, we still have not had one layoff, okay? And I'm very proud to say that. And when these companies go out, you've heard, you know, Comcast, Charter, they're all bringing back the jobs to America. Well, I never exported jobs overseas. All right, so I can't go to Trump and say, hey, I'm going to bring jobs over here, all right? So we're in small markets, you know, where working for Mediacom is pretty important. Because not only do I have 4,600 employees, but those 4,600 employees come with 13,000 family members, okay? And that's, to me, probably the greatest thing that I've done for me and my people. That today I could walk around at my age and say, never screw anybody. I did say, unless somebody tries to screw me, all right? And then I'll go after them, right? And I'm glad to say that you can be successful without cheating and trying to do the right thing at all time. And not only, my parents gave me those attributes, but I think I learned those attributes also from that special class that I took at Columbia back in 1974. With that, I'll stop. Thank you.